You're listening to the Team Stripes podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 77 of the Team Stripes podcast, proudly presented by Acme Whistles, helping you make the big calls since 1870. The legendary Acme Thunderer is now available in matte black. Acme Whistles, proudly associated with the NHL since 1917. We're back from our little 1 week hiatus. Ross, how are you this week?
Well, I'm doing all right. It's finals week for school, so obviously waiting to the last minute to get some school stuff done. I've been sitting in front of my computer all day working on a couple assignments. I'm ready to blow my brains out when it comes to that kind of stuff. But other than that, had a good Thanksgiving. Did not work any tournaments or anything like that. I did do 2 high school games yesterday morning, but just cause. So yeah, just living the dream as usual. Dad fried a turkey,
Ooh.
as he always does. That was amazing. So we had good food, had some good friends over, and yeah, otherwise just enjoyed a good weekend. How about you, dude?
My week was actually pretty nice. Went down and saw the parents, so that's always fun to go see them. Plus, I don't have to ref that means since I'm not in Dallas. So I think I had my last games were the Sunday before, I guess, the week of Thanksgiving here, so before of last
Perfect.
week. And then I was supposed to skate 6 games yesterday, but 2 of them ended up being forfeits. So my 6 turned into 4, which I'm never going to complain about. It always makes me happy. For me, Thanksgiving was nice. I mean, just hung out with the family. We don't do a traditional Thanksgiving. We had ribs. We smoked up some ribs all
There
day,
you go.
and it was absolutely delicious. And I mean, now I'm back here and back on the podcast, and getting
Sweet.
all that new merch out that we're trying to get out. And so
Yeah.
back
And then you
back to
should be
busy.
in and then you should be in final stuff too for school, right?
Yeah, we have. So next week is our final week. So we have this
Nice.
whole last week where a few assignments are due, and then next week is all our finals. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm done on Wednesday. I need this. I get a 6-week break, and I need it.
it's the best
So
break ever.
yeah, nice 6 weeks. Don't have to worry about nothing. But anyway, so let's get into it. I know we in our little pre-show talk, you had some stuff you want to talk about. So let's share with our listeners what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think first and foremost we have to talk about Johnny Boychuk retiring.
Okay.
He ended up retiring kind of surprisingly after a 13-year NHL career. He got cut above the eye, I believe it was, in a game in March and messed up his eye. He said he was going to be back 100%, nothing to worry about. And then all of a sudden he comes out, says he's retiring. Look, I get it. I mean, I would retire too. He's still young. I think he's only 36. So,
13 years in the league, he's made his money. You kind of get a scare. I mean, maybe something's going on with his vision.
mm-hmm.
So who knows? But good career. I believe he won a Stanley Cup, right?
Oh, I
think
don't
he won.
think so. Just because he was trying
Wasn't
to
he
think.
on
So
Boston when they won?
Oh yeah, he was in Boston in 2008 and then helped them win the cup in 2011. So yeah, you're correct. So he won the
Okay,
cup in
good.
2011.
Okay.
So
yeah, this guy's name on the cup. Whatever. Good
yeah,
for him.
I think he did everything he wanted to do. And I mean,
Yep.
we understand why risk further injury and potentially losing eyesight. He's got young
for
kids at
sure.
home. I get it, and all the best to him, and good on him for that career.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, he's 2 years older than me, so man, good for him. Gets to retire, gets to live the good life.
Right.
Not have to really do much the rest. He'll probably end up as a broadcaster or something silly like that.
He'll be doing something somewhere in hockey.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
But we are also getting closer to my favorite time of the year, which is the World Junior Championships.
World Junior Championships.
Starting in Edmonton, December 25th this year, and it's a 2-week-long event for anybody that doesn't know. It's the best U20 players in the world. They come play each other. And this year, all of the officials selected for the World Junior Championships are Canadian. So generally, I think each country probably has 2, maybe 3 guys get selected. This year, obviously, due to COVID, I'm guessing the Canadian government told the IIHF, hey, we're not going to allow anybody in besides the players. So
I think this is kind of silly, the fact that we're going to allow the teams in, but not 2 more people from each of the countries. Like, come on, Canada. But at the same time, like, whatever. I roll. And the kids that all got selected, the entire staff now gets to, have that experience. And traditionally, IIHF, you're not allowed to work your home country and all that kind of stuff. So, they're breaking that rule. But I don't think that'll even come into question, because all the kids that got selected to work this tournament, they're going to be out there with their highest level of professionalism and all that, because all the eyes are on them.
Yeah,
So.
I do wish they would allow, the other officials in, but whatever. I understand it. Congrats to the guys that did make it. And I was reading around, obviously, people are saying, oh, the Canadians are going to be biased towards the Canadian players. And if anything, that's probably the farthest from the truth, if not the opposite. They'll probably be a little bit more harder and stricter with the Canadian players.
I would not be surprised to see Canada have a very high penalty total.
Yeah. Especially maybe the first few games, just to be like, hey, guys, we're not biased. But, I mean, like, look, these guys are some of the best officials in the world. And
and let's be honest, it is what it is. Working World Juniors is a stepping stone to get to the NHL.
Exactly. And why throw your career away, or potentially your career away, just so Canada
and we're
can win a gold
talking
medal?
a good amount of these kids that play in the tournament are going to play in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean,
so with that said, like, this is a good stepping stone for all these young officials that are going to get out on the ice. And maybe one of the guys, and think about it this way, the opportunity for some of them is, they might not necessarily been number 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the list to go work World Juniors, but they were like number 10 on the list. So they get selected, and, they go out and have a banger of a tournament, and their stock just raised. So, like, it's an opportunity for those guys that maybe not necessarily was like the higher tier guys on the list, but some of the guys that are good enough. And then, it's a perfect opportunity for those guys to really strut their stuff. And you never know, get noticed.
Yeah, I almost like this idea of what, like, whoever's the host country is you supply the officials. I think just for that very reason of, like, you'll see guys that are definitely good enough that probably, or more than likely, would have missed the original cut of officials if there was, 2 or 3 from each country. I think it would be really cool, though, that if you got to host the tournament, you got to supply the officials.
I think the problem you would run into there outside of the US and Canada would be having the numbers of guys that, like, maybe not in some of the European countries, but other places that host traditionally, they might run into a numbers problem of not having enough guys capable of working those games.
But then if that's the case, they can
like, if it's well, I would say maybe if it's in Europe, it's just European officials. If it's in the US, it's now. But at the same time, again, like, the IIHF's making an exception to their rule of not working your host country, which that came about after the 2002 Olympics, because of some allegations during a game, which I'm not going to talk about because there's nothing to talk about. But people, like to talk and whatever. So I get it. I understand their reasoning, but this is just such a oddball situation that it just ends up creating a situation for guys that might not necessarily have gotten the opportunity. And you know what? Congrats to them.
Yep, take it and run with it.
Yep.
That's all you could do.
And maybe we can try to get one of the gentlemen that's on the roster to come on the podcast, or potentially maybe get someone who has worked the World Juniors to come on the podcast, so we can talk about that experience.
Yeah, because the World Juniors is awesome. Speaking of the World Juniors, the Canadian camp had to shut down for the 2 weeks due to, I think it was 2 positive tests by their players. And so they had to shut down. I think they're still in the middle of a shutdown. I think they're on like the second back half of their 2 weeks. But
it'll be all right. They're all young and healthy.
Exactly.
Send it.
They're all going to go to Edmonton. They're going to be in their own little bubble. So I think once the tournament actually starts, unless anybody –
It'll go off without a hitch like the NHL playoffs did.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can hope for.
Yeah. So
I'm just excited for hockey to be on, and to boot, it's on Christmas Day, which, I mean –
Are they doing the U.S.-Canada game on Christmas Day?
I believe so.
Or is it on New Year's Day?
See, and it's generally on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, one of the two. But I think because of them starting on Christmas Day now, they are playing Christmas Day.
I think we'll check on that while we keep talking.
I was going to say, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Oh, they're going to play December 26th.
Okay, so day after. So yeah. Boxing Day.
Boxing Day up in Canada.
There you go. Perfect.
So,
all right. So we'll shift gears from that and talk about something that one of our listeners messaged me about. Actually, it is a female official who is, I believe she said she was from Singapore.
Oh.
Let's see here. Let me go. Yep. Yeah, so it's a female official. She's from Singapore. And she had a question about professionalism in working, whether it be adult hockey or really any hockey in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a little chit chat with her, whatever. But this is something that I will say for maybe the international listeners that are out there, it might be a little different for you guys, because I know IHF is a little different when it comes to how they talk to players and handle that kind of stuff than they are, with us with USA Hockey or up in Canada with Hockey Canada. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about professionalism. So when we talk about this at seminars, Brenden, what is one of the things that comes to mind for you?
For me, I think the biggest thing is being approachable. I think a lot of people don't think they can come up and ask a referee a question or something along those lines, because we see it so much with a coach yelling, a ref doesn't respond. But for player to ref, I mean, personally for me, I talk to the kids a lot, especially in the older divisions like 16, 18s, and then in juniors. I mean, I'm constantly talking to them. And it's funny because you think they understand the game and you think they understand the rules, but then they don't. And so the more you can talk to them and help them understand the rules, I think that takes away a lot of the gray space. I mean, for me, my biggest thing is look, if you come up to me and you're calm, cool, and collected, and you have a genuine question, no matter how dumb it may sound to me, I'll answer it and I'll give you an honest answer.
Sounds good. And then when dealing with adults, we'll just say men's league, because that was kind of her thing was actually dealing with beer league players, not necessarily people that are still competing. So what do you do?
Oh, beer league players are a whole different ball game, I think.
Oh, I know, and that's kind of why she wanted us to touch on it.
It's a very interesting one, because I don't know if I should say I'm fortunate enough or lucky enough, but I've skated enough beer league that enough of the players know me that
Mm-hmm.
you create it.
Well, you
It's not
have that rapport, and that's
yeah.
actually, and that's something I said to her, and I was like, you know, for me, I started reffing men's league, about 18 years ago, and I've been at the same rink pretty much that whole time, minus the time I was away in the military.
Mhm.
So I know all these guys as far as the primary rink that I work at, and some of the other rinks that I'm at too. Like, there are guys that play at multiple rinks, and I was, what works for me and you, Brenden, might not necessarily work for some of our other our listeners, whether it be with um, youth players or juniors, or getting into men's league. But like for me, it's building a rapport with guys and knowing who you can talk to and how you can talk to them.
Mhm.
Like when I'm doing A league, which is all guys that played at a decent level, we can go back and forth. We can just have it out. I don't have to be short tempered and give a guy a misconduct for saying something to me. Like if they say something to me, I can say something right back. We can have our fu battle and move on with the night, and it's all good. But these are guys that I know,
Mhm.
whereas like guys that we don't know, you kind of gotta tread around it, kind of take the temperature of the guy in the situation, and then figure out how you want to handle and respond.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like I'm very much in your, thinking, I think of at the higher levels of beer league, like A league here, you've probably played at least ACHA college, if not
Mm-hmm.
higher, more than likely higher. And so with those guys, like, yeah, you can kind of give a little bit and take a little bit. And I'm A-okay with that because at the end of the day, they appreciate you letting them play more so than if I called every single slashing penalty that happened or every clutch and
Oh,
every
we'd be there all
grab.
night.
Exactly. And so the guys really appreciate that. And like,
Yep.
I mean, there's one team here that I'm thinking of in Dallas. Actually, I did them last night, and there's 3 hotheads on the team, and everybody else is cool. And as long as those 3 hotheads stay, at bay and they don't cross wires for whatever reason, where it's a quiet game. Now, once their wires cross, things kind of go downhill, but that's when you start looking to the guys that I wouldn't
Yeah, to
call him a
contribute.
captain, but the
Yeah.
calm guys, and you're like, yo, like, what's happening? Because
Hey, can you figure this out? Because
yeah,
this guy's being an idiot.
yeah, pretty much. And I mean, like, especially here in Dallas, like, all the beer leaguers know who I am. I know who they
Mm-hmm.
are. It's one of those things where I'm more than A-okay with joking around with you guys and having a good time because that's what we're all
Mm-hmm.
out there for anyway. I always tell them I'm just here to drop your guys' pucks. I'll throw them in a corner if you guys ask me to. I really don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
Like,
yeah.
I was gonna say, like for us, one nice thing that we have when it comes to guys that kind of get out of control, we have 3 penalty rule. If you get 3
Hmm.
penalties, you're out of the game. So it definitely makes managing things a little easier. You don't have to get the 5 penalties and then the guy gets suspended for a game. You just get 3 and you're gone. So that definitely makes it a little easier when it comes to managing them. But like I know for me, like the level of professionalism too, especially when we talk about like the guys that think that they're scouts in the stands and they're playing for the cup. um it, you always meet their disrespect with respect, because a lot of those guys can get disrespectful, but at the same time, like, pick your audience to,
Hmm.
like, if you can maybe give it back to them, if like, I'm not, do it. But at the same time, like, with the lower level guys, you got to be a little more careful because they don't necessarily get it.
Yeah,
So
with the
just
lower
be
level
respectful.
guys.
Try to explain stuff to them to the best of your ability, and if they are not taking your answer, just agree to disagree and skate away. But don't. I will say, there's that artist and scientist argument with refereeing, which you're familiar with, I'm sure.
Mhm.
I think one thing we do need to avoid is being too much of the scientist and just throwing penalties at guys, because that's not going to solve any problems.
Yeah, my thing with like the lower levels of beer league here in Dallas, I always ask the guys what would you have called? You know, like if they feel like they got tripped or whatever, I always say, okay, what penalty do you want me to call there? Mostly to
Mhm.
see what their answer is, and generally it's a trip, and then I would go, okay, here's why it's not a trip.
Yeah.
And a big one also is interference. I don't know why, but everything's interference. And so I'm like,
Oh
okay,
yeah, in
how
beer
is
league, 100%.
yeah? And I'm like, okay, how is this interference? Oh well, you know, he didn't, and it's just like, no. Your guy skated directly into him. You're entitled to your ice. It's not going to be interference.
Yeah.
And 9 out of 10 times, if you talk to the players and say, okay, what do you want to see called, and then explain to them why it's not going to get called, 9 out of 10 times it's fine. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And so it was funny. There's one goalie in Dallas, and he's just a hoot and a half, and he always wants a penalty. So one day he came over to me, and this guy maybe got tripped. Like, it was one of those ones where it's like, we haven't called a penalty all night. End of the first period, like, we're fine, not a big deal. Probably got tripped though. And goalie comes up to me and he was like, well, why didn't you call that a penalty? And I was like, which one? And he's like, well, that hook there. And I was like, oh, there wasn't a hook. And he's like, oh, really? And I was like, borderline trip, but there wasn't a hook. And he's like, well, why didn't you call the trip? And I was like, well, you didn't ask for the trip. You asked for the hook. And
Right.
so it's things like that where, I mean, me and
Yeah.
him giggled it off because I had that rapport with him. I
Well,
think maybe if the guy didn't know me, I wouldn't go and say that. But
I think no, obviously we're not going out there to be everybody's buddy.
no.
But if we're consistently working at the same rinks, seeing the same teams and all of that, you know who your problems are.
Mm-hmm.
Just when you get on the ice, you know, oh, this team's playing that team. Okay, I got to watch it, whatever. I feel like if we try to connect more and try to be better about building rapport with these guys, and it doesn't have to be every single player, but, you know, a couple guys on each team or whatever, I feel like for me, knowing everybody, it makes my life easier, because I know I hear all these like other horror stories from other guys that I work with, and I'm like, that stuff never happens to me. So then I try to talk to them about it, like trying to figure out the disconnect on maybe what they can do better to avoid having to deal with those kinds of situations. Like, do you ever have that too, where you're sitting in the room and you're working with somebody and they say, oh, this is what happened, and you're like, that kind of stuff never happens to me.
Yeah, and to me, I think the biggest thing is either the teams aren't used to let's say it's a newer official, or
Yeah.
it's something like that where they're not used to him, so they're trying to test the boundaries with them. And
Well, that'll
you know,
happen.
yeah, exactly. And maybe he calls it tighter than what we normally would. And so if he tells
Mhm.
me X, Y, and Z happened, I'll say, oh, like, did you try to talk to them maybe a little bit? Because to me, the biggest thing is like, yo, if you talk to these players and show that you care even just a little bit, I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
they
showing that you
respect it.
care goes a long way, because these guys are paying good money to be out there, you know?
Exactly. And I think we all can agree nobody wants to be out there for that 10:45 Tuesday night game. But at the end of the day,
Oh, definitely not. No,
they're looking
I
at you and saying, hey, we're paying you to be here. Can you at least care a
exactly.
little bit?
We're providing. I mean, when you think about it, we're providing a service. You know,
Yep.
like, it's just that's what it is. Like, we're giving them a service. Where the rink is our customer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we, to the best of our ability, we owe these guys. Hey, you know, I'm getting paid $40 a game to be out here. I should I should be working a little harder, and a little hard work, a little respect, and a little communication goes a long way. And that's not just with beer league, that's with everybody.
Yeah, that's at any level.
So I think professionalism, I think that pretty much sums it up. Like, if you go out there, work hard, don't throw the book at guys. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a time and a place where that has to happen. But, work hard, hustle, give respect, treat the disrespect with respect, give it back and forth with a guy if you can, or and sometimes, heck, you build the rapport by having your battles, but so just and two, like, don't be a robot out there and don't be afraid to get yelled at.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing when it comes to beer league is like you have to be having as much fun, if not more fun, than the players, or else it's gonna suck for you.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, work hard. Yeah, sure. Maybe let's bend a rule here or there for an icing or whatever. If the guy was 2 feet from the red line, like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever, it's beer league. And I'll tell guys that all the time. I mean, like, a guy will be a stick length away from the red line and ice it. And the team's like, oh, that's icy. I'm like, no. Like, you guys get the 1.5 feet here. Like,
yeah, the center red line's about 6 feet wide.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, as long as you're close to it, it's like, okay, I'm probably going to wave off this icing.
Yeah.
And 99% of the times, both teams are like, awesome. Like, we're just out here flowing around having a good time, especially at the higher levels.
Yep.
But throwing the book at a guy brings up something that I saw. I believe it was on the ice hockey referee page.
Oh, perfect segue. Yes.
And somebody posted a question. I don't know who it was, but it got a lot of responses. And the question was, can a referee prevent a game from erupting? Ross, I believe you said yes.
All I said on the post was 100%. That was my only comment. And I thoroughly believe that, because as a referee, yes, obviously we are out there and our job is to react to what happens.
Mm-hmm.
See a penalty, call a penalty. Have your conversations with players and coaches. But also be able to know where you're at and where that game is going. And if you start seeing little fires, you need to figure out how to put them out. Because if you don't put them out, now, obviously there are going to be situations where somebody does something really stupid for no reason, and that is completely out of your control. Like, an example would be like a player shooting a puck into a bench, or attacking a guy from behind just out of nowhere because they're Looney Tunes. But it's one of those things, like, I definitely feel that as a referee, if you have the opportunity or whatever, trying to think what I was going to say, to be able to put out fires, be a good communicator, talk guys through things, I thoroughly believe that as a referee, you can prevent a game from going sideways.
I agree, but I will say originally...
heck, as a linesman, you can prevent a game from going sideways by helping your referees.
1,000%.
And I'll be 100% honest, in a 3 or 4-man game, the linesmen usually have more communication with the benches than the referees do. And you'd be surprised what fires you can put out as a linesman without even having to involve the referee.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think this kind of goes back to the professionalism and maybe just the communication side of it with players. Me as a linesman, when I'm doing a game, I am constantly talking to players to try and figure out why they're mad or what they're upset about. Because once you know, you can start talking to them and kind of talking them off the ledge is how I look at it. And so, like, for me as a linesman, during a stoppage of play where everybody's just skating back to the bench and it's no big deal, like, I'll just look at a guy and be like, how's your night going? Or, what's happening tonight that you're mad about? But I think originally on that Facebook post, I said, no, you cannot. And the more I thought about it, I was like, we do it all the time, because you start feeling a game kind of not necessarily.
Like, you can feel it. Like, if you're in tune with what's going on the ice, you can just feel that tension building, and you're just like, I got to do something here.
Yeah, it's not
And
necessarily, oh, you're losing control of the game or I'm losing
yeah,
control of the game.
no,
It's like the temperature's raising up,
yep,
and my job as an official is, hey, I got to reel this shit in, and I probably got to reel this shit in quickly.
yep.
And perfect
Well,
example is that is we had a AAA weekend here this past weekend, and game was going great. There was a hit that I don't know how I missed it, but we missed it. Okay, it happens. Temperature starts going up, and literally in my head, I'm like, we're gonna have to reel this shit in quick. And not 2 seconds later, a guy just goes and dummies a kid from behind. I was like, cool, there's my reel in call. Called the
yeah.
210, settled everything down, and game went on smoothly. But at the same time, I'm also
And
on the
well,
side of it. I'm an official. I'm not there I can't control your players. I can't control. At the end of the day, we have zero control.
no,
We truly have
and
zero control
you are
because
correct. We have zero control.
I'm,
However, I feel like, and I think this is just through my own experience, games go differently working with different guys.
yes.
So, like, when you have teams that that you see all the time, you have a solid crew, they know it's a solid crew, it's less likely to get out of control just because you're there.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree with
I
that.
have had over the years coaches say, "Oh, and not necessarily just to me, but like crews that I'm working with. Oh man, thank God you guys are here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The last time we played these guys, such and such happened, blah blah blah. We know that you guys will handle it." And that's not, they're in there trying to pump our tires a little bit and maybe try to throw the last guys under the bus. But at the same time, there are times when they're being honest and like, hey, maybe the last crew wasn't, having the best day, whatever. But it's just one of those things, like, just your influence of you being the guy that's there over the next guy could potentially, stop a game from going sideways. And that gets back to what we were talking about with the professionalism thing. Like, for me, when guys are like, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened, and I'm like, that stuff never happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying like it just, strictly happens to them. And I mean, it doesn't not happen to me because, I'm the greatest referee ever. That's not it. But it's just one of those things, like, I like to think I have a good ability of keeping stuff from going sideways, you know?
Yeah, I think a big thing of it is just the feel of the game and knowing the temperature. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as I tell everybody, look, I'm just here to report the news. You guys make the news for me. I just report it.
Yep.
If you guys don't do anything all game long, I got no news to report. We all go home happy. If you guys want to be donkeys, I'm really good at setting the parade up to the penalty box. Either way, I mean, at the end of the day, you control the game, but at the
But
same time, you don't.
you don't. No, you don't. And obviously, one thing that we all need to be mindful of is, don't worry about the things that you can't control, because you cannot control an idiot when they're on the ice running around. And then what was I going to say? Oh man, I just had something in my head that I was going to say. Um, I think too, with keeping games from going sideways, it's reflective on your personality as a referee. I feel like if you're able to talk to that's what I was thinking. Talking to the players. So the professionalism and the rapport with players, like, you see a guy that's kind of acting up. Like, I can think of a player in particular that I see pretty often in our junior league, and I'll like tell him, hey dude, don't play like an idiot tonight. Or if I see him do something, hey, you're towing the line. Like, the guys that are the issues,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not necessarily always going to be an issue. But if you communicate to them, hey, don't be an idiot, as just little reminders, and if you can keep those guys under control, like, having those guys on your side is the best thing, because your best friends should be goalies and goons, right?
Yeah, I agree. We had a kid back here in the Null the past few years, and he was good for about a penalty a game. And so I would just wheel by him every once in a while, or if I saw him, before warm-ups, I'd be like, so what period are you getting your penalty tonight? Like, what period should we be expecting something? And it was always funny. He would always be like, I don't know yet. And then we would walk out for the second period, and he would look up at me and be like, hey, Asti. And I'd be like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, I think you're going to have to escort me to the box this period. I'd be like, okay, like, thanks for the heads up at least.
That's
at least we know it's
funny.
coming. And it's things like that where it's like, hey, the kid knew he was going to get a penalty eventually. But I don't really have anything much else to talk about except for the fact that we are dropping just a boatload of new merch. We have a few new logo designs. We've been working incredibly hard on that this whole past week. Some stuff's up today. There's more stuff. It's really weird. I can only add so many things to the store per day. So I've been adding as much as I can. Over the next few days, there'll be more and more and more. We did get some kid sizes in because I figured, maybe you want to buy some for the youngsters for Christmas, whatever. We have a ton of good merch in. I would say go check it out. I'm super pumped for it. I'm going to put in a massive order when I can. And the one last thing I want to say is our YouTube subscribers, we are up to 964 out of our goal of 1,000. So quick maths, we are 36 away. When we hit that, there'll be a massive giveaway for those 1,000 followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call them. So keep subscribing to that. And Ross, you got anything else?
As per usual, I'm going to go ahead and plug the Team Stripes Academy, the master course from NHL legend referee Don Koharski, where him, Brandon Bourgeois, and the rest of the other Team Stripes boys get out on the ice and kind of show you how it's done as well. Oh, and Jamie Koharski as well. I got to give him that plug because I know he listens every week. Good. Let's see what else. I think everybody just keep working hard, stay the course. I know some of us are having different seasons than others, like in Dallas or in Texas and Florida, we're kind of full send. I think I saw today Jersey's shutting down for the whole month of December for hockey. So, stay positive. I've been seeing a lot of guys complaining about their USA hockey fee or this, that, and the other thing. Like, obviously, we're in unprecedented times. Don't get frustrated by it. Just, it is what it is. Obviously it's November 30th. So today is the last day that our, 1920 crests are good for.
Yep. You got to start using the other ones.
So tomorrow you have to be wearing your 2021. Now this is for our USA hockey people, obviously. And those guys that, you haven't registered, you're taking the year off, just keep in mind that you do get a freebie as far as a year off goes. So like the next year you come back, you can re-register as the same level you were. But if you take any more than 1 year off, you start phase 1, day 1 as a level 1. So just keep that in mind. Obviously that doesn't really affect your assignments, whatever, but that is something to be mindful of. I guess with that, I'm good. I have another Zoom call that I have to get on here in a few minutes.
Ooh, aren't you fancy?
Yeah. And I also have to finish this freaking paper.
Well, then we will wrap up episode 77 of the Team Stripes podcast. Thank you to our sponsors, Acme Whistles. You can buy the matte black ones on our website. They are sick. They are beautiful. And also Rolo Golf, the polo company. Use code STRIPES15 for 15% off your entire order. And also go look at our merch at teamstripes.com. It is sick merch. I love it. I'm excited for it. I'm going to be rocking it 7 days a week once I order it. So see you guys next week, bud. And have a great week, guys.
And hopefully next week we'll actually be back to having guests.
We will. We'll find a guest.
All right, everybody. Take care.